Bang! From the New York Stock Exchange, the Rebel Edge. Folks, Pete and I are going to cover some important stocks and the movements thereof, and you don't want to miss it. So stay tuned. Bang! Bang! From the New York Stock Exchange, Pete. That's Pete, by the way, over there on that side.
And I know it's shocking, but you're somewhere other than the normal place of where you'd be. That we could just leave it at that.
Yeah, and we might have to because we're on the clock. Yeah. But welcome to the Rebel's Edge, folks. Again, we're going to give you a little macro minute. Today, Pete, I'm going to say the macro minute is that the rate cut in June has been dropping steadily. Last week, it was 62%. This week, it is 51% so far. That's according to the CME tool, Pete. So that is my macro minute.
Well, I'll start real quick with that one as well, John, and just say this. How about all the clowns in January and February and even into March who are telling us we're going to get all these rate cuts, right? I mean, where are they? Let's call them out. and that's wrong. I'm going to give you my macro, which is the CPI. It's something that everybody is staring at right now. I think it's why we had reduced volumes yesterday. Today, a little bit lighter, some very bouncy markets right now. I think a lot of that has to do with people's nervousness going into the CPI report.
That'll be tomorrow, folks, at 8:30 Eastern time that we get that CPI report. All right, Pete, let's dive into fantastic futures.
Fantastic futures.
Well, fantastic futures, Pete. I'm going to say you've got two of them, really. You've got the gold miners because, man, gold is hitting another record on just ahead of the inflation print tomorrow. And we've got crude oil prices up 18% since mid-February. Now, that's not what the administration wants to hear, certainly not what most individuals that are watching this show want either, Pete, because it means it's costing more to fill up your tank.
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to give you a fantastic future of this, John. How about copper? You know, we talk about it all the time, but it continues to set new record highs as well. Now, not quite record. It's 52-week highs right now. Got through there and established a new high today. But also, when you look at the all-time highs, it isn't too far away. It's been moving up there. It's been absolutely incredible. It has to do with supply. It also has to do with massive demand across just about everything, but renewable energy certainly being a big part of that. So keep an eye on copper. We've talked about all these various commodities over the last few weeks. Copper's definitely one, setting another 52-week high today, and not that far off of that all-time high.
Hey, Pete, listen, I'm jumping in here. We don't always have three co-hosts on the show, but today you got a bonus, a BOGO. Buy two, get one free. Mark Lopresti, CEO, Senior Market Strategist for Mark Rebellion. Pleased to join Jon and Pete to bring you a Venture Minute segment. You all know that Jon and I like to find unique and interesting companies to share with you. Well, this is one. This is Team SR2 Racing, incredible faith-based driver, Sting Ray Robb. Yes, that is his real name. Parents named him Sting Ray. They were big Corvette fans. Well, folks, Sting Ray Robb and Team SR2 just launched last week an equity crowdfunding campaign. So people have the opportunity to join Sting Ray on his incredible ride, racing this year, driving for the iconic AJ Foyt racing team. And this is an opportunity for you to invest in an IndyCar team. Jon and I actually, Pete, are going to be out with Sting Ray and the team at the Streets of Long Beach race weekend after next. We can't wait. If you're interested, folks, there's going to be a link below. Check it out. This is disclosure time. This is a paid endorsement. Jon and I are shareholders and paid endorsers of this particular campaign, but we do it because we love it and we believe in the mission. Go Sting Ray, go Team SR2. Check it out.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to jump off. I'll start off the stocks today as we shift over and get Jon back in the picture. But gold stocks, Jon already hit on that a little bit. I'm going to hit on it a little bit harder. Here's what we're looking at. Miners continue to rip to the upside. We're seeing all these various names within the gold world. Why are they going there? A lot of people are asking those kind of questions. Well, it's an extremely reliable sort of an alternative for a lot of folks. That's why they're going there. They're nervous about inflation. That's very, very clear right now. And because of that, they want to have that diversification. That diversification comes with silver, comes with gold, certainly comes with a lot of the different precious metals. But Jon, all you've got to do is take a look at any of these gold stocks right now, and they're all creeping a little bit higher, a little bit higher. It's not like a catapult, but it certainly is moving to the upside very rapidly.
Very much so, Pete. We've got unusual activity aplenty in these. I mean, when you look at it, Pete, we had CDE, which is Coeur d'Alene. We've got EGO, which is El Dorado. We've got HL, Helka. All of these, as you see on the screen there, people have been right, and they're chasing gold higher, Pete, into this print, which will be tomorrow at 8:30 that you and I talked about. The inflation, is it going to be above 3.7, Pete? 3.7%? If it is, then they're going to push out even further into the future when we might expect a cut. So big number tomorrow, and gold stocks are benefiting from it. All right. How about this one, Pete? Alks. They announced positive top-line results for their narcolepsy type 2 treatment. Well, hopefully people aren't suffering from narcolepsy and watching this show, because this show will keep you up. Because Pete and I are going to talk, as we always do, about exciting things. And narcolepsy, of course, is a malady where people fall asleep just all of a sudden. I could name some shows that would do that to you folks, but I'll be kind because they might be filming behind me here. But nonetheless, Pete, ALKS, you got to watch that one.
Yep. It's had a nice move to the upside, Jon. It's somewhere caught in between the 52-week low and the high, the 52-week low being about 22, the high being very close to 34. Today it was trading right around 27 last I looked. Heavy volume. There are some shorts. They are getting a little bit of a squeeze. It's going to be really interesting. Here's the big problem, though. Why is it only up as much as it is? Here's why. Because this is phase one. Now, we've talked about this many times. I think people are finally figuring out that, and they need that educational side. But when it's phase one, you're still a long way from getting to the point where you actually make money off of this drug or this treatment or whatever. And that's something that we always try to encourage people to have, is that knowledge. So this is great. This is good news. Things look pretty good in terms of what they were looking for. That being said, this is phase one. They still have phase two, phase three, and the appropriate process to get to the next level where they can be a drug on the street. So it's something that I think all of us have to really pay attention to. That's why it's only up 3 or 4% today.
Yep. Well said, Pete. All right. Now we've got one that the gentleman who is talking about Sting Ray Robb, Mark Lopresti, the CEO over at Market Rebellion and co-host of the show. Mark is always talking about energy, Pete, almost always. And he's been right, kind of like those gold bugs. He's been right about there's just a demand that is almost insatiable in crude oil right now. Well, Borr, B-O-R-R, they got some new contracts, Pete, for their jack-up rigs. And what is that? Well, I love these names, Pete. Prospector 1 or Gunlod or whatever. They name these darn rigs, Pete, but the amount of money that they're going to get from these contracts that run almost 3 years is about $158 million. That's why this stock, BORR, is moving up so rapidly, right, Pete?
Yep, it's making a really nice move to the upside. Jon, you were talking about those premium jack-up rigs and the naming of them and the money that's going to be coming in. This is very big. This is what they need. They need those contracts. They need the commitments of capital. That's exactly what they're seeing right now. It's a nice move to the upside. The stock is somewhere between $5 and $9. That's a 52-week low and high. So it's not a huge range necessarily. Here it is today, trading about $6 or thereabouts. It's something where it's interesting. It certainly is. But I think I just want to caution people to understand what they do, how they do it, and look at where the stock is. So this is not a stock that you're expecting to double overnight, but this could be a nice grinder to the upside, Jon, when you look at what's happening in energy right now.
Certainly could be, Pete. All right, now we'll wind up with Neogen, which is N-E-O-G. This one was down hard in the pre-market, Pete. They reported worse than expected Q3 earnings for, and they also warned about 2024. And you and I know if you warn and you miss on earnings, that's going to be a tough day.
Yeah, it's a tough one for these guys for sure, John. They started off the day down about 17%. That is not a good number. And when you look at what they're doing, and they give you the guidance that they did, but also leading into that guidance, they actually had some disappointment with the revenue already. So unfortunately, they missed on the front end. They're definitely missing on the next end, and that's a real problem for them. I'll tell you what, it's interesting to see what they're having to deal with right now, food, safety, all the rest of that, but they actually hit a 52-week low today, John, underneath $13 a share. Do I think it's going to bounce? I really don't. As a matter of fact, I'd watch this one, but I don't think there's any reason right now to be in any sort of a hurry to say, you know what, they beat it, they overdid it, this thing is ready to run. I don't see that at all right now, John.
No, nor do I, Pete. And it was a $20 stock at the beginning of 2024, folks. Now it's under $13. It's trading $12.98, I think, something like that. So I'm not saying it's a no touch, but I'm saying I want to pick it up even cheaper if you want to bet that this one can make a comeback, Pete. Okay. All right. How about a little sports, Pete? What are you going to talk about today after the NCAA tournament?
Yeah. How about those tournaments? By the way, first of all, how about what the women did, what the ratings looked like, John? 14 million people. I mean, these numbers were outrageous, all for the right reasons. And we were watching the dynasty, as I like to call it, yesterday with South Carolina. I'm starting to think that what we're seeing out of UConn is a dynasty as well. And what do I mean by that? Well, when you look at what UConn's been able to do over the last few years, and you look at what Danny Hurley has done as their coach, John, here's some of the numbers. He's 141-58. He's got 70% winning percentage in 6 years of being at UConn. I think he's done everything that he was ever expected to do, and he continues to do it each and every year. It's absolutely incredible. He's got 2 national titles now in a row, 48-11 over the last 2 years. They were 37-3 this year. That's not so bad, because when you think about the parity of basketball and the NIL and all the shifting around that people are doing, I think you just have to take your hat and tip it right now to Danny Hurley, what they've been able to accomplish. One of the things and one of the reasons why I think they beat Purdue, John, to get to where they are, that national title. All 5 starters contribute equally all the time. Every game, if you take a look, they're all pretty much in double digits in terms of points. They all have similar number of rebounds, steals, all of that. So it's an incredible thing to watch how they play as truly a team. And I think that's something that I think everybody has to respect that. But most importantly, I would say this. Is this a dynasty? Because it sure feels like a dynasty to me, John.
It sure looks like one on paper as well, Pete. Just like you said, you win back-to-backs. Very impressive. You're South Carolina, the women's team, and they win 2 of the last 3. Also very impressive. Both those, I think, could fit into your dynasty category.
Yeah. And lastly, John, let's jump to the NBA real quick, because we're almost at the very end of the season. And as we look at things, I'll tell you what, Boston stands out all year. They've stood out. They're not quite the Chicago Bulls, John, but they're damn good. I mean, they are loaded up just about everywhere, right? But you go to the Western Conference. You've got teams like Minnesota sitting there basically somewhere near the very top, Denver, Oklahoma City, and those are your top 3 for sure. They've been all kind of going back and forth between 1, 2, and 3 most of the year, and Minnesota's mostly been in that number 1 spot. But I wanted to run out to you and say this. Who scares you the most? Who's the sleeping giant? Because I'm looking at the Clippers. They've won 7 of the last 10. Dallas has won 9 of the last 10. Phoenix has won 7 of the last 10. You've got Durant, you've got Booker, you've got Beal, you've got Luka, you've got Kyrie Irving, you've got Tim Hardaway. All these different players. You've got Kawhi Leonard, you've got Paul George, you've got James Harden. You're talking about some of the best players in all of basketball playing on those teams. And if I'm Minnesota, or if I'm Oklahoma City, or if I'm any of these teams, Dallas, whomever, Denver, I think you got to be very, very cautious about who you're going to be playing, because there's some teams out there that are going to knock somebody out.
Pete, the best team in the West is still the Nuggets. I hate to say it, but your team, the Timberwolves, could be the team that proves me wrong, because they have been winning games. They've got the same record, 54-24, both those teams, the Nuggets and the Timberwolves. I'd love to see your Timberwolves make it all the way to the finals, Pete, and they could. And if they do, they're going to be playing some pretty tough NBA East competition, as you said, because you've got the Celtics out there 62-16. That is a juggernaut. But right now, I still think that because of that big guy in the middle for the Nuggets, that they have a slight edge, but it's only slight. And, you know, they were the champs last year, too. So let's not forget that. But I think the Timberwolves are ready to make a move on them.
Well, and the interesting thing, and then we're all done, but I'll tell you what, Karl Anthony Towns has missed about the last, 15 or 20 games because of a problem with his knee. So he's back and he's ready. I think that makes them pretty dangerous with a couple of 7-footers, Rudy Gobert and himself. He can play much more on the offensive side. Rudy's a great on the defensive side. It might be the great timing for Karl Anthony Towns, Cat, to get back in there. And of course, Anthony Edwards, he's not Michael Jordan, John, but I'll tell you what, he could be started to call Baby Jordan at some point because this guy is unbelievable.
Yes, he is. And it's worth a ticket, folks, because he also shows up and plays, unlike some of the guys we've talked about in the past. All right. Thanks for joining us, folks. It's a pleasure to be here at the NYSE. We appreciate all our friends here. Bob Pisani, Pete, came up to me, gave Mark and I a big hug here, and said, say hi to Pete for me, will you?
Wow.
So I'm saying hi to you from Pisani, Pete. From all of us, folks, tell your friends about the show. Join us again tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll see you then.